Hey, what's up? Thanks for joining me on Moment of Clarity. Please take a second to share this. Let people know. You might have seen it has to do with the mainstream media's efforts to try and hang on to the remaining little pieces, fragments of Russiagate as if it's a thing. Those little fragments are now disintegrating like dandelion spores off into the ether they go, and yet your mainstream media, MSNBC, fucking CNN, are still trying to hold on to it. It's really pretty desperate, as you guys know. But this, I want to dig into this because it's so fucking incredible. Let's get into the story, shall we? This is from Aaron Mate. I mentioned him before. I've had him on the show. Aaron is a friend of mine, but he's also a great journalist, and he does really important work. And he's one of the only ones that has really been willing, from kind of a left-wing viewpoint, to take on, but honestly, he's just doing good journalism. But he's one of the few who's not kind of a rabid Trump crazy motherfucker who's really dug in seriously, like a lawyer would, into every little itty bitty detail of Russiagate and what it's saying and what it means and the documents. And he does the stuff that I'm too lazy to do, like reading the fucking, 700-page documents of testimony from various people and shit like that. I certainly have been, dissecting and tearing apart the laughable Russiagate hysteria, but I'm not reading those documents because I don't have the time. If you put a fucking transcript of like legalese in front of me, I'm out cold. Honestly, it is the best pill. If you're trying to go to bed, just read some fucking law documents and you will be out cold, man. Cold. It's actually, if they could put that in a pill form, if you could ingest the reading of law documents so you didn't even have to really hold them up or whatever, people would just be popping those every night just to pass out. They really would. Or even suppository. If you could shove law documents up your ass to go to bed, I think that would be ideal. So, yeah, this is, many of you probably have heard the name Konstantin Kilimnik. Kilimnik was, in a way, the linchpin, the Mueller report, and all of those. I'm going to mention Mueller and then, but all of them who fed into this hysteria and were kind of at the vanguard of the Russiagate hysteria. People like Adam Schiff and Mark Warner and Rachel Maddow, people in the media, CNN, even some of the lesser ones like PBS and shit. All of them were, they kept trying to grab things where they were going to find out that Trump he colluded with Russia, right? It was going to come out and it was going to be this grand thing. And for a while they were waiting on the Mueller report. The Mueller report was going to prove it. And then that came out and they were like, oh, shit. And they were like, well, it's the stuff that's not in the Mueller report. That's really where it's at. And so then they had put Mueller on they did the hearing with Mueller speaking, and we could see him on television. And rather than actually help their case, everyone just went, that's fucking it. That stuttering old man who doesn't know what's in his own documents. That's your case for Russian collusion. And here's the reason it's important to keep talking about this shit. And I'm not saying talk about it every day. We do need to move on. But the reason it's important is because this shows what a pile of horseshit our media is. And the Democrats. The Republicans are horseshit in other ways. But it shows how willing they are to lie to us, to lie to the nation, to lie day after day after day. I mean, think about it. We got 4 years almost of Russiagate every single day, right? And it was used to malign people like me, even though I've fucking had nothing to do with it. Just because I have a TV show on RT. It's fucking foreign agents are going to get us. And so to this day, it's still, is hurting me and my career and everything else because we're supposed to be afraid of the big bad wolf. And it's all collapsed in every way. And there's a million smaller ones I'm not listing, like we're going to find out which Facebook memes influenced the election. Oh my God. And like each one just fucking collapsed into nothingness. So, Konstantin Kalemnik, and I'll detail who exactly he is, where he came from in a minute. Well, Aaron Mate will, and I'll read the quotes. But Konstantin Kalemnik has finally broke his silence and spoke to Aaron Mate for Real Clear Investigations is the name of the outlet. So if you want to read that interview, then you can go to Real Clear Investigations. But this is from Aaron Mate's Substack about this story, and he titled it, "Accused Russian Spy Kalemnik Refutes U.S. Intel Claims and Exposes Key Mueller Falsehood." In an exclusive interview, key Russiagate figure Konstantin Kalemnik responds to evidence-free allegations that he is a Russian spy who shared Trump polling data in 2016. Okay, so here we go. The man cast as a linchpin of debunked Trump-Russia collusion theories is breaking his silence to vigorously dispute the U.S. government's effort to brand him a Russian spy and put him behind bars. And I want to skip ahead here because he gets into kind of exactly who Kalemnik is. And the claim was that Kalemnik was a Russian agent and he had gotten secret polling data from Paul Manafort, who for a while was Trump's campaign manager. Now, Paul Manafort, absolutely corrupt. He's just not corrupt in a I'm colluding with Russia to rig the election way. He's corrupt in other ways, as they all are. I mean, Trump, totally corrupt, right? But in other ways, the problem is the ways that like Trump is corrupt, taking tons of money from Sheldon Adelson to fund all of his shit, Robert Mercer, all of that stuff. The ways Trump is corrupt are the same ways the Democrats are corrupt, are the same ways the Republicans are corrupt. So they're not going to go out. They never went after him for any of that shit. They went after him for these imaginary Trump-Russia things, which is something the Democrats were not doing. So therefore they could go get Trump for colluding with Russia. And so they claimed that Kalemnik had given this top secret polling data, or Manafort had given this top secret polling data to Kalemnik, who then gave it to Russia. And by doing that, Russia was able to know exactly where to target with their evil Facebook memes, right? You remember the memes that even Facebook said almost no one saw, and most of the ones that even were shown to anybody were after the election. And if you looked at them, but many of them didn't even make a clear point about the election. And they were on both sides of things, like total garbage. But here's the thing is, even if those memes didn't actually influence anybody, if you were a secret agent for Russia giving secret election information to Russia to try and help them rig the election, that is illegal. So the mainstream media tried to hang on to that's what happened, right? Manafort gave this polling data to Kalemnik, who's a Russian spy. So here's Aaron Mate again. Kalemnik has provided an inviting target for proponents of Trump-Russia conspiracy theories. Kalemnik was born in 1970 in Ukraine when it was part of the Soviet Union and later worked for Paul Manafort as a translator and an aide in the Ukraine. This background makes him one of the few people in the broad Trump 2016 campaign orbit to possess a Russian passport. So basically, they needed this, right? The Democrats needed this. Rachel Maddow needed it. They needed someone, even in the Trump realm, that had a Russian passport so they could say, there he is. There's the Russian agent that helped rig it all. And Kalemnik was one of the only people they could find that even had a Russian passport. So they had to pin it on him because they didn't really almost have anyone else in the Trump even orbit. And we're talking, second to third to fourth connections. This is 7 degrees to Kevin Bacon. They found someone who was sitting in hold on. He once mopped up after the meeting that Trump had. Trump often just urinates himself while he's sitting at the desk. And this guy mopped up that piss, and he had a Russian passport because he was Russian, and so he is the connection to the Russian agents or whatever the fuck. They needed someone. So anyway, to this, Mueller, so the fact that Kilimnik had a Russian passport, Mueller and others have added a series of ambiguous and disputed allegations to say that the FBI assess him to have ties to Russian intelligence. This characterization, first made in a 2017 court filing, quickly transmogrified into presumed fact of the collusion narrative. Rather than prosecute Manafort for any crime related to Russian interference in the 2016 campaign, the Mueller, because they didn't really have any proof of that, the Mueller team instead pursued him on financial and lobbying charges involving his pre-Trump stint as a political consultant in Ukraine. In 2018, it accused Kilimnik, the Mueller team accused Kilimnik of seeking to pressure two potential witnesses by sending them text messages about Manafort's Ukraine lobbying work. Point is, Mueller couldn't find any proof that Manafort had colluded with Russia, that, so they tried to claim this polling data thing, but they knew they couldn't really prove that. So instead, they got Manafort on working for Ukraine before he worked for Trump. So Manafort, likely corrupt on that regard, but it wasn't connected to collusion. So I've had people say to me like, oh yeah, well, Lee, if Russiagate isn't real, then how about all those indictments? Well, if you actually look at the indictments, if you look at what Manafort ended up in prison for, it's not collusion with Russia. So when people say, look at the people that were indicted, it's not for collusion with Russia. And then many of them, the indictments were dropped, almost all of the others. You have like a few remaining ones like Manafort, but almost all of the indictments were dropped, and many of those were against the fucking clickbait farm in St. Petersburg, the firm that put up those Facebook memes that influenced nobody. They indicted those people because Mueller thought that those people and that company would never show up in the United States to fight that indictment, to fight the charges. So he could run around saying, we got indictments, without ever having to prosecute someone or present proof. But instead, the people didn't show up, but the company sent a representative to the United States to fight it in court. And then the judge said to Mueller, show us the proof that they were trying to influence the election, that they were connected to the Russian government. And Mueller said, we dropped the indictments. And they did it like quietly on a Friday night when nobody was looking. They dropped the fucking indictments on that troll farm. So, back to Aaron Mate. As the Russia probe came to a close without a single indictment related to the Trump-Kremlin conspiracy, the Mueller team used Kilimnik to suggest collusion without formally alleging it. And if you've watched 3 seconds of Rachel Maddow or, Joy Reid or any of these people that have tried endlessly to keep the Russiagate thing alive, they point to Kilimnik all the time. That is like their thing. That is what Rachel Maddow's like, please, Kilimnik. Like, it is like all she has left is like, Kilimnik's Russian agent and he met with Manafort and he gave him secret polling data. Honestly, I wish I had the clip of Maddow, which she may, she'll build up the polling data to be like it was the nuclear codes, It was the many say that the public. Maybe Aaron will mention it in here. The public data, the polling data was public, so the idea that it was like secret polling data. Anyway, it's all just garbage. But so here's a quote from lead prosecutor Andrew Weissman. This goes to the larger view of what we think is going on and what we think is the motive here. This goes, I think, very much to the heart of what the special counsel's office is investigating. Weissman's musings, this is now Aaron Mate again, Weissman's musings became collusion fodder. Media pundits and influential Democrats, namely congressional intelligence leaders like Schiff and Mark Warner, speculated that Kilimnik shared Trump campaign polling data with Russian intelligence officers as they allegedly worked to turn the election in Trump's favor. Here's a quote from Mark Warner. He's a senator from Virginia. I think he was a governor when I used to live there years ago. I know he was the governor of Virginia. I just don't remember if it was in the years when I was there. But Mark Warner said, quote, "This appears as the closest we've seen yet to real, live, actual collusion." Bang, bang, bang. Quote, "Clearly Manafort was trying to collude with Russian agents." So that Mark Warner, a senator, is running around saying that because a fucking goon like Manafort shared publicly available polling data with a guy who likely was like a go-between that was not connected to the Russian government. But soon after, the Mueller team quietly undercut Weissman's larger view and the conspiratorial innuendo that it had fueled. 1 month after igniting the frenzy about the polling data, Weissman submitted a heavily redacted court filing that walked back some of his claims. The following month, the special counsel's final report acknowledged that its musings and speculations about Kilimnik could not be corroborated. The Mueller team not only did not identify evidence, this is a quote from Mueller, by the way, did not identify evidence, or his papers, did not identify evidence of a connection between Manafort's sharing polling data and Russia's interference in the election, unquote, as the report stated, but also, quote, could not assess what Kilimnik or others he may have given it to did with it. They can't prove that Manafort sharing this polling data did anything or was connected to Russian interference in the election. That's Mueller admitting that. For fuck's sake, that's the guy. So they can't, and they could not assess that Kilimnik or others what they did with it. Think about that. So Mueller himself has said, I can't connect the polling data to any kind of Russian collusion or Russian interference, and I can't show that Kilimnik gave it to anyone or gave it to the Russian government. So you've got literally nothing, fucking nothing. But Rachel Maddow will tell you Russiagate's a real thing. There was collusion, right? They still run around saying it. They throw it out there like it's just a known thing now. But I wanted to give you, so this is probably the more breaking news. This is from Aaron Mate's interview with Kilimnik, or maybe he did it with other people. But so this is Aaron Mate says, highlights from the interview and Real Clear Investigations related reporting. I know the... Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure Aaron Mate interviewed him for Real Clear Investigations, or Real Clear, Real Clear Investigation. I didn't know for a minute there. I wasn't sure it was Aaron that interviewed him, but yeah. So here's a quote from Kilimnik. They needed a Russian to investigate Russian collusion. Basically, they had to find a Russian that had some connection to the Trump orbit, or else they couldn't say they were even investigating anything. So they found, and then Kilimnik says, I happen to be that Russian, quote. So basically, just because Kilimnik was there, they were like, he's a Russian. He's got to be. This also goes with the standard propaganda that Americans are fed, which is any Russian is the Kremlin, right? Any Russian you meet is Vladimir Putin. They're all one thing. It's a country of hundreds of billions of people, over 100 billion people. Did I say billion? Million people. And you're supposed to believe they're all the same thing. They're all one Kremlin secret agent, Drago, fucking awful human beings that just want to eat your heart out and punch your face in. That's all Russian. So by Kilimnik being Russian, that instantly makes him an evil Russian government troll. So here are some highlights that Aaron Mate has picked out of the interview. Kilimnik denies passing 2016 polling data to Russian intelligence or any Russian for that matter. Instead, Kilimnik says he shared publicly available general information about the 2016 American presidential race to Ukrainian clients of Manafort's in a bid to recover old debts and drum up new business. So basically, these are a combination of con men and borderline con men. You know a lot of people in your life who try and make themselves out to be bigger than they are, try and make themselves out to be more important than they are. I had friends like that more in New York, but where they would exaggerate their pull, they would exaggerate who they know. They would say they know this celebrity. They'd say they're besties with, Gwyneth Paltrow because they met her once. And it's like that kind of shit. But this is in the political world. So these goons, Manafort, et cetera, are doing that in the political world. They're trying to make themselves seem important in order to get deals as consultants, in order to get contacts. And so what do? Well, they don't actually have any great knowledge of what's going on inside the Trump campaign, or at least not that they're willing to share. And so they reveal publicly available polling data and they say, we're giving you this secret polling data. They're fraudsters, standard fraudsters. And not to mention, that's all of the U.S. government, right? So the Democrats going after these people, they're also the same kind of fucking garbage, corrupt, just slightly different. A little different twist on it. Okay, so this is back from Mate's notes on the Kilimnik interview. Gates told RCI that the Mueller team, quote, cherry-picked his testimony about Kilimnik to spread a misleading, collusion-favorable narrative. The U.S. government has never publicly produced the polling data at issue, nor any evidence that it was shared with Russia. So the U.S. government won't say what this polling data was, because if they reveal what it was, then we could really prove it was publicly available. So the U.S. government refuses to say what polling data this is, even though Kilimnik and Gates and others in Trump's sphere have said this was publicly available polling data. Besides the fact that even if you shared secret polling data, who gives a fuck? Oh, 23 people in Cleveland say that they think Trump is sexy. They just love his orange gooey skin, and they love the way it like droops like a turkey neck over his neck collar of his $10,000 suit, and they love the way his orange neck paint rubs off on the collar, so you can see like kind of an orange neck paint shadow on the collar of the shirt next to the gooey turkey neck thing that hangs down, like the little fucking neck foreskin that he has there, and they just love it. And we called and 25 people in Cleveland say they're really into that, and that is secret polling data. Do not reveal that. Oh shit, I told a Russian. Oh, I'm a traitor. I just committed treason. I told the Russians about those 25 people who like Trump's droopy neck fat. What's it fucking? It's polling data. It's a fucking matter. But also, it was publicly available. All right, back to Mate's jokes. Did I say jokes? Mate's notes. Kilimnik denied. Oh, shit. I skipped one. Kilimnik shared documents that contradict the special counsel's effort to prove that he has Russian intelligence ties. Photos and video of his Russian passport and a U.S. visa in his name shared with RCI, Real Clear Investigations, undermine the Mueller report's claim that Kilimnik visited the United States on a Russian diplomatic passport in 1997. To judge from the images, Kilimnik traveled on a civilian passport and obtained a regular U.S. visa. The Mueller team has never produced the diplomatic passports that they claim they have on Kilimnik. So, again, Mueller's trying to prove Kilimnik is Russian government and that Manafort was colluding with the Russian government. But Kilimnik is not a diplomat and doesn't have a diplomat passport, and Mueller has never produced a diplomatic passport to prove that he was. Kilimnik also denies traveling to Spain to meet Manafort in 2017, which is something else Mueller claimed. If true, this would undercut the Mueller team's claim that Manafort lied in denying such a meeting. That denial was used to help secure a 2019 court filing that Manafort breached a cooperation agreement. The special counsel never furnished evidence for the alleged Madrid encounter. So again, Mueller showing no evidence of certain things he's accusing Manafort of. While the Treasury Department and Senate Intelligence Committee claim that Kilimnik is a Russian intelligence officer, so that's the Treasury and Senate Intelligence Committee. While they claim he's a Russian intelligence officer, no U.S. security or intelligence agency has adopted this characterization. So the Treasury Department and the Senate report are claiming something that even the intelligence community, which doesn't really mind lying about a lot of shit, as we know, they lie about shit all the time, even they have not claimed Kilimnik as a Russian intelligence officer. Even they haven't said that. And I think the reason they're not, our intelligence community, the U.S. intelligence community, is not willing to do that, not willing to say that lie, is because lying about that would make them look like idiots, that they didn't know that a Russian intelligence asset was connected to Paul Manafort, the former campaign manager for Donald Trump. He was a campaign manager, I think, for a few months. Trump fired him fairly quickly. But anyway, it would make them look like idiots that they didn't know that. But the reason they didn't know that is because it's not true. Kilimnik, there's no evidence Kilimnik was a Russian intelligence agent. Kilimnik has never been charged with anything related to espionage, related to Russia, related to collusion, or related to the 2016 election. Let that sink in with you for a second, okay? Every night you can turn on Rachel Maddow over the past 4 years and watch her talk about collusion, talk about the Mueller report, talk about how, oh my God, we have the evidence. We have the papers, as Alex Jones said. I have the papers here, papers right here. They show that Kilimnik was Russian intelligence. Now, he wouldn't say that, but I'm doing Rachel Maddow doing Alex Jones. This is me doing Rachel Maddow doing Alex Jones. Anyway, Kilimnik has never been charged with anything related to espionage, related to Russia, related to collusion, or related to the 2016 election. If Mueller had proof of any of that, don't you think he would have charged him? Instead, the Mueller team indicted Kilimnik on witness tampering charges in a case pertaining to Manafort's lobbying work in Ukraine that happened before he was on the Trump campaign. Let that sink in. If Mueller had any proof of any kind of Russian collusion, then why is the only thing he charges Kilimnik on has to do with so-called witness tampering on something against Manafort that happened before he was working on Trump's campaign? Meanwhile, the FBI's $250,000 bounty for Kilimnik is larger than most rewards it offers for the capture of violent fugitives, including those accused of child murder. And something else you should know from the interview is that Kilimnik says no U.S. official has ever tried to contact him, to talk to him. And the reason, I believe, I don't know that Aaron Mate says this, but the reason that they're not even contacting him to talk to him, to ask him what happened, is because Mueller, in order to put out that report, Mueller doesn't want to speak to Kilimnik and have it all deteriorate. Because if Kilimnik denied on record all of the things Mueller's saying, Mueller then has to give proof that it's true somehow. You can't have no evidence of something and the guy involved saying it's all not true and present no evidence. So instead, Mueller said, well, I'm not going to present any evidence that Kilimnik is a Russian agent, et cetera, but I can say it. And we've never spoken to him, so he hasn't denied it. So, I mean, it's amazing that they never spoke to him. They needed some Russian that they could claim was connected to all this garbage. It's just amazing how thoroughly it has all fallen apart. So, Aaron Mate's article is about roughly 900 pages long, so I can't get into all of it, but in Kilimnik's eyes, his utility as a Russian national for the Trump-Russia collusion narrative also explains his prominent inclusion in the recent U.S. intelligence community assessment. So this is a more recent thing that came out, which brought Kilimnik back into the news. It was released in March, 1 month after the FBI alert for his arrest. In yet another iteration of how Kilimnik is described by the U.S. government, the ICA does not call him a Russian intelligence officer, but instead a Russian influence agent. They've changed it from Russian intelligence, that's extreme, right? That's KGB. That's you're in the fucking intelligence. You're in the CIA basically of Russia. That's extreme. That's pretty serious. They've now backed that off to a Russian influence agent, which sounds like an Instagram poster, right? Isn't that an influence agent? He was posting a lot of memes for Russia. I gotta tell you, I saw the one with the Bernie Sanders in a swimsuit, and Kilimnik posts that because he's a Russian influence agent. What he does is he goes around, he posts selfies of himself around the United States, and he hashtag infiltrated United States, and it really fucks some shit up. He's an influence agent, does a lot of good selfies, and he gets the lighting well. The lighting setup is really good, and he also is really good with the filters. He just knows he knows his fucking filters, man. I don't know how he got so good at filters. It's probably a KGB thing. They probably trained him real well on the filters. But anyway, he's a Russian influence agent. And that's it for today. But please share this. Please let people know about it. You can join me on Twitter at Lee Camp. Check out my podcast, Government Secrets, Common Censored. And Redacted Tonight, of course. There's a new Redacted Tonight all the time. If you go to leecamp.com, you can find the latest one. Like, if you haven't watched the latest, and by the way, they're now embedded in the post at leecamp.com. Used to be, because I had an old website, I couldn't embed them. And so you go to leecamp.com and you click on New Redacted Tonight, and then you have to click again to go to portable.tv. Now you go to leecamp.com, open the post, scroll down, click play, watch the uncensored full half hour of Redacted Tonight at leecamp.com. If you haven't watched the latest episode, I think we can't be friends anymore. I think I've liked you. I've liked you a lot. I think we had some good times. We remember that time we won that Frisbee golf tournament. So we had that. There was remember catching fireflies? Yeah, we did that. I mean, it was weird considering I was 35 at the time. I felt I was a bit old for catching fireflies. But I'm there for you. I was there for. I mean, we're done now, but I was there for you at the time, and I think we had good times. And it's just, if you're not gonna watch the latest episode of Redacted Tonight, then I don't know what we're hanging on to here. I don't know what. Like I don't. Who are we? What is this? What is this we got going here? No, I want to know. If you can't watch the latest episode of Redacted Tonight, then why am I investing this time? Why am I, this is an important time in my life, and I just don't understand why we're in this if you can't even put up a half hour, give up a half hour to watch New Redacted Tonight at leecamp.com. So that's what I'm saying. And we had, look, it's been fun, but I just think it needs to be. I think we need to move on. We need to move on with our lives. If you can't do that, we had good. I agree. We had good times. Yes, there was that one awkward makeout, but in general, it was good times. And I think, listen, it's not me. It's you. You're a fucking asshole. Go watch Redacted Tonight. It's not me. It's you. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me. Keep fighting.